My parents uninvited me from Christmas. Your brother's fiancée doesn't want you there, you bring bad energy. I simply replied, understood. Then I spent Christmas in Aspen on a $37,000 ski trip. I posted just one photo. Christmas morning at 11:52 a.m. Mom called. The dinner was canceled. Nobody could afford to host it. I calmly said, why would that be my problem? No apology. No hesitation, not even enough shame in her voice to make her sound uncomfortable. My mother called while I was standing in the kitchen of a luxury home in Denver, waiting for my clients to decide whether they wanted to make an offer. Snow was melting on my coat, a contract was open on my tablet. And I had a headache from spending the entire week selling houses to people who argued over wine cellars as if their lives depended on it. Caleb, Mom said, I need you not to come on Christmas. For a second I thought I had heard her wrong. What? She sighed. Your brother's fiancée doesn't want you there. Vanessa says your energy has been negative. I stared at the marble island in front of me. My energy? Yes, Mom said quickly. Bad energy, actually. She's sensitive and this is her first real Christmas with us. We just want peace. In the background, I heard my father mutter something, then Nathan laughed. I closed my eyes. Mom, I said, I paid for Christmas. There was silence. I paid the caterer, I paid for the wine, I rented the tables and chairs, I sent you money for the decorations. I bought gifts for Nathan's kids because he said he was short on cash. I even paid for Dad's prime rib because his card had been declined. Don't make this about money, she snapped. That had always been the family rule. They could ask me for money, they could need money, they could depend on my money and build every emergency around my money. But the moment I mentioned money, somehow I became the problem. Then what is it about? I asked. Family, she said, peace. Not making Vanessa uncomfortable, and I make her uncomfortable because I asked Nathan why he was planning a wedding when he couldn't even pay his rent. That was cruel, that was a question. You always make people feel small. No. Mom, I make people feel accountable, there's a difference. Her voice became colder. Caleb, if you come, Vanessa may not come. Nathan is upset. Your father agrees that this is for the best. I waited. Some part of me expected her to apologize, maybe even realize how ridiculous this was. She didn't. Instead, she said, please be mature about this. I looked through the window at the snow falling outside, soft, clean, quiet, everything my family had never been. Finally, I said, understood. Mom sounded relieved. That hurt more than being uninvited. Oh, good, thank you. Maybe after the holidays we can all. I hung up. 5 minutes later, my clients returned to the kitchen. So, the husband asked, should we increase the offer? I smiled because that was what I did for a living. I smiled through nervous buyers, arrogant sellers, terrible inspections, weak appraisals, and family phone calls that left bruises nobody could see. Yes, I said. If you want the house, we need to move now. By 6 that evening, the property was under contract. By 8, I canceled every unpaid Christmas expense connected to my card. By 10, I had booked myself a last-minute ski trip to Aspen. The total was $37,000, flights, a luxury suite, a private driver, lift passes, a private instructor, spa treatments, dinner reservations. The kind of trip I normally would have called completely ridiculous, but this time I paid without hesitation, because for the first time in years I realized something. I was allowed to spend my own money on myself. My name is Caleb Hale, I'm 34 years old and I'm a realtor, a successful one too. Although I still hate saying that because my family trained me to feel guilty about every dollar I earned, I didn't grow up wealthy. My parents were middle class and supposedly careful with money, at least when it was their own. My younger brother Nathan was always the golden child, even though very little about his choices was actually golden. When Nathan failed classes, he was overwhelmed. When he quit jobs, he was misunderstood. When he borrowed money, he was struggling. When he lied, he was scared. When he hurt someone, he didn't mean to, but when I succeeded, I was lucky. When I worked hard, I was obsessed with money. When I saved, I was selfish. And whenever I said no, I was cold. I became a realtor in my 20s after getting a job as an assistant at a small brokerage. I answered phones, made copies, organized open houses, and watched agents earn more money in one afternoon than my father made in an entire month. At night, I studied contracts, and on weekends, I learned everything I could about different neighborhoods. I took every difficult client the other agents didn't want. My first big commission came from selling a small ranch house for an elderly widow. I negotiated hard and managed to get her more than her asking price. she cried at the closing table. Afterward, I sat in my car, staring at the check in my hands, thinking I actually made it. That same night, Mom called. Nathan needed money for a lawyer. That was how my life worked. Every time I managed to climb one step higher, my family somehow turned my progress into their emergency exit. At first, I helped because I genuinely wanted to. Family helps family, right? So I paid Nathan's rent once, then again, then his car insurance, his phone bill, part of his credit card debt, Mom's dental bill, Dad's truck repair. Then Nathan's security deposit after yet another breakup. Nobody ever forced me to do it. That was what made it so difficult to admit that I was being used. They always asked with tears, guilt, promises, or some version of, it's just this once. Sometimes it was, we have nowhere else to go, every time I helped. I convinced myself it would finally bring some peace. It never did. The requests became larger while the thank yous became smaller. Eventually, the thank yous disappeared altogether. By the time Nathan met Vanessa, my family treated my income like electricity. It was simply expected to be there whenever they needed it. Vanessa noticed that immediately. She was beautiful in a polished, sharp-edged kind of way. Glossy dark hair, perfect nails, and a smile that never quite reached her eyes whenever she looked at me. She worked part-time at a boutique and seemed to work full-time at being offended. At our first dinner together, she asked, "So, you sell houses?" "I help people buy and sell property," I explained. She smiled. "That must be nice, easy money." Nathan laughed. "Caleb loves easy money." I looked directly at him. "You should try earning some." The entire table went quiet. Mom whispered, "Caleb." Vanessa's smile vanished. After that night, I became the villain. Vanessa started with small comments. "Caleb makes me feel judged. Caleb talks about money too much. Caleb's energy is intense. Caleb doesn't seem happy for us." Nathan repeated every one of her complaints as if they were facts. Carved in stone. My parents accepted them because blaming me was easier than confronting Nathan. Then, in October, Nathan and Vanessa got engaged during my parents' anniversary dinner, a dinner I had paid for. Vanessa proudly showed everyone a ring Nathan absolutely could not afford. Everyone clapped. Mom cried. Dad slapped Nathan on the back. Later that evening, I pulled Nathan aside. "How did you pay for that?" His expression immediately changed. "Seriously, you borrowed rent money from me 3 weeks ago. That was different." "How?" "That was survival." "This is love." I stared at him. "Love has a financing plan now?" He stormed away. The following day, Mom told me I had humiliated him. Dad said I needed to stop acting superior. Then Vanessa posted online about people who weaponize concern. By December, everyone had their assigned role. Vanessa was the delicate bride-to-be. Nathan was the misunderstood man trying to build a future. My parents were the defenders of family peace, and I was the bad energy with the good credit limit. Christmas was supposed to be at my parents' house. Mom said cooking for everyone would be too much, so I paid for the catering. Dad complained that folding chairs looked cheap, so I rented proper seating. Nathan mentioned that his kids might not have much under the tree, so I bought gifts for them. Vanessa casually mentioned that she liked cashmere, so I bought her a scarf. I told myself that maybe this holiday could still be different. That was the saddest part. Even after years of being taken advantage of, some part of me still believed that if I gave enough, smiled enough, and stayed quiet enough, they would finally treat me like I actually belonged. Then Mom called. "Caleb, I need you not to come on Christmas." I was silent for a moment. "Vanessa says your presence creates bad energy." I almost laughed. Understood. That was it. No argument. No begging, no explanation, just understood. I spent Christmas in Aspen. Aspen was everything my family wasn't: quiet, beautiful, expensive without needing to apologize for it. I arrived on Christmas Eve that afternoon. My suite had a fireplace, heated bathroom floors, and a balcony overlooking the mountains. I ordered room service, turned off my notifications, and slept for 9 hours. On Christmas morning, I woke before sunrise. Snow covered everything. The sky slowly turned pale blue over the mountain peaks. For a few minutes, grief sat beside me. I thought about my parents' house, the dining room, the Christmas tree. The chair where I should have been sitting, the gifts I had bought, the cashmere scarf Vanessa would never open. Then I remembered the relief in my mother's voice when I said, "Understood." So I made coffee, stepped onto the balcony, and took one picture. I was wearing a dark sweater, holding a mug with the snowy mountains behind me. I posted it with one simple caption: "Christmas looks different this year." No price tag, no explanation, no insult. But people recognize happiness when it appears without their permission. Within 20 minutes, my phone started buzzing. My cousin Mark commented, "Aspen." Caleb really said upgrade. Aunt Lisa liked the photo. A few clients also sent me Merry Christmas messages. Then Nathan texted me, "Must be nice." I ignored it. A minute later, Vanessa messaged, "Interesting choice to flaunt your money while your family is struggling." I ignored that one too. Then Dad texted, "Call your mother." I didn't. At 11:52 a.m., Mom called. I answered. "Merry Christmas," I said. She didn't return the greeting. "The dinner was canceled," she said, her voice trembling. "Nobody could afford to host anymore." I looked out at the mountains. "That's unfortunate." "Unfortunate," she repeated. "Caleb, your father is furious. Nathan and Vanessa are fighting." "Your aunt was already on the road. The caterer said the remaining balance hadn't been paid." "I know. What do you mean you know?" "I canceled my card authorization." There was a long silence. "Almost peaceful. You did what?" "You uninvited me from the Christmas dinner I was paying for. I assumed you had made other arrangements. That money was for the family." "No, Mom. That money was for me. You embarrassed us. I wasn't even there. You knew this was going to happen." "Yes, how can you admit that so casually?" "Because I'm done pretending your decisions are my emergencies. This is Christmas." "Caleb, I remember. I was the one who was uninvited from it. You're being cruel." "No," I paused, "I'm being absent." "There's a difference." Vanessa was uncomfortable. "Then Vanessa can host. She doesn't have that kind of money." "Then Nathan can host. You know your brother is struggling." "Nathan has been struggling for years." "At some point, struggling becomes a lifestyle. Don't speak about your brother like that." And there it was again. Protect Nathan, excuse Nathan, sacrifice for Nathan. I took another sip of coffee. "Mom, listen carefully. I'm not paying for Christmas anymore. I'm not sending emergency money. I'm not covering dinner, gifts, rent, wedding deposits, car repairs, or anyone's hurt feelings. You told me not to come. I respected your decision. Now you can pay for the life you planned without me." She started crying. A year earlier, that sound would have destroyed me. I would have apologized. I would have called the caterer. I would have paid whatever it took to fix everything. But that morning in Aspen, something inside me stayed completely still. "Enjoy your expensive tantrum," she said bitterly. "I will." Then I ended the call. The fallout started almost immediately. Nathan called 11 times. Vanessa sent paragraph after paragraph. Dad left a voicemail saying I had made my point. Mom even sent me pictures of the empty dining room as if I had personally taken the food away. I ignored most of it. Then Nathan sent a voice message. "You ruined Christmas for my kids, Caleb. I hope that fancy hotel was worth watching children cry." That one hit differently, not because I believed him. Because Lily and Mason were innocent. I called him. He answered right away. "What, if you ever use your children to manipulate me again," I said, "we're going to have a problem that money can't solve." He gave a cold laugh. "You did ruin their Christmas." "No. You built their Christmas around my wallet and then helped throw me out of the room. You're being dramatic. You called me bad energy. That was Vanessa, and you stood there." He went quiet. "I changed the subject. Who's paying for the wedding, you see? You can never just be happy for me. I'm not happy watching you plan a wedding while other people are paying your rent." Vanessa's voice came from somewhere in the background. Nathan repeated what she said. "Yeah, how much did your little revenge vacation cost?" $37,000. Silence, then he laughed. "You're lying." "I'm not. You had $37,000 for a ski trip, but you couldn't pay for Christmas dinner." "I could." I paused. "I chose not to." Vanessa said something sharply in the background. Nathan's voice became angry. "You think having money makes you better than us?" "No," I said. "But I'm starting to understand why you hate the fact that I have it." He went silent. "I'm done, Nathan. No more rent, no more bills, no more gifts because you forgot to budget, no wedding money. No emergency transfers. If you want a life, pay for it yourself. You can't just cut off family. I can when family only plugs in when they need power." Then I hung up. When I returned home on December 30th, I found a note taped to my condo door. "Caleb, call your mother. This has gone too far." Dad's handwriting. I pulled the note down and threw it away. For the next week, my phone turned into a battlefield. Mom wrote about betrayal. Dad wrote about respect. Nathan started sending overdue bills. Vanessa posted vague quotes about financial abuse. That one almost made me respond. Financial abuse. From the woman who wanted to keep my money available after helping get me removed from Christmas. My cousin Mark commented underneath her post, "Didn't you uninvite the financier?" The post disappeared 10 minutes later. Then Aunt Lisa called. Aunt Lisa was my mother's older sister and the only person in the family who had never asked me for money. She smoked too much, laughed too loudly, and had a habit of telling the truth in rooms where everyone else preferred fiction. "Caleb," she said, "what the hell happened on Christmas? What did Mom tell you? She said you canceled everything because Vanessa needed some space." I laughed. "Creative, tell me the real story." So I did. I told her about the catering, the gifts, the rentals, the phone call, Aspen, and Mom's call at 11:52. Aunt Lisa stayed silent for a long time. "So," she finally said, "they told you not to come to a Christmas you were paying for and then acted shocked when you stopped paying." "Yes, your mother left out several chapters." "I figured she would. I'm calling her," she said. "Please don't start a war." "Oh, honey," she replied, "they started it. I'm just bringing a flashlight." By the next day, half the family knew what had actually happened. Suddenly, Mom stopped texting me about betrayal. Now she was talking about private family matters. Dad said I had embarrassed them. Nathan accused me of turning everyone against him, but I hadn't turned anyone against him. The receipts had done that all by themselves. The real confrontation happened 3 days later. My parents and Nathan showed up at my office. That was their mistake. My brokerage was located on the second floor of a renovated brick building downtown. Glass walls, polished concrete floors, framed closing photos lined the hallway. And my name was printed clearly on the door, Caleb Hale, Senior Realtor. I had spent 12 years earning that office. Cold calls, weekend showings, failed deals, angry sellers, panicked buyers. Impossible negotiations, and more difficult clients than I could count. I had built that life from absolutely nothing. So seeing my family walk into that space carrying guilt, entitlement, and expectations felt like dragging mud across a freshly cleaned floor. My assistant, Priya, looked up from her desk. "Everything okay? It's fine," I said. "Hold my calls." I led them into the conference room. Mom looked pale, Dad looked angry. Nathan looked like someone who had come looking for money but wanted to pretend he was there for justice. Mom spoke first. "Caleb, this has gone too far." Dad sat down heavily. "You made your point." Nathan remained standing. "Vanessa cried for 2 days because of you. I'm sure she survived." Mom flinched. "Why are you being so cold?" "I'm not cold," I said. "I'm being clear." Dad leaned forward. "We're not leaving until we fix this." "Fix what?" "The family," Mom said quietly. I waited. Dad cleared his throat. "And the financial mess from Christmas." There it was, not an apology, not accountability, just another request for money disguised as family responsibility. "How much?" I asked. Dad hesitated. 9,000 would stabilize things. I actually laughed. Nathan glared at me. "What's funny? You came to my workplace asking me for $9,000 after excluding me from Christmas, insulting me for taking a vacation, and allowing your fiancé to call me bad energy." Mom's eyes filled with tears. "We made a mistake." "No," I said. "You made a choice. The mistake was believing I would keep paying for it." Dad pointed at me. "Watch your tone." That sentence used to work. When I was younger, Dad could silence me with a single look. Watch your tone meant stop questioning him. It meant apologize before anyone even asked, but he wasn't standing in his house anymore. He was sitting in my conference room. "No," I said calmly. He blinked. Then I turned my laptop toward them. On the screen was a spreadsheet, every transfer, every bill I had paid. Every emergency I had rescued them from, every documented contribution. At the bottom was the total, $148,620. Mom stared at the screen. "Caleb, look at it," I said. Dad pushed the laptop slightly away. "We never asked you to keep score. People who benefit from generosity usually don't like records." Nathan's face went pale. "You offered to cover half of that, and now I'm not offering anything." Mom started crying. "We raised you better than this. You raised me to believe that love meant sacrifice," I said. "And I believed you for far too long." Dad stood up. "So what do you want? An apology?" For years, I had wanted one. I had imagined Mom admitting that she knew how much I was carrying. I had imagined Dad telling me he was proud of me. I had imagined Nathan admitting that he used me because it was easier than becoming responsible himself. But looking at them that day, I finally understood something. I didn't want an apology they were only considering because the money had stopped. "I want boundaries," I said. Mom wiped her eyes. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm not paying anyone's bills anymore. I'm not funding Nathan's wedding. I'm not paying for holidays where my invitation depends on someone else's mood. I'm not responding to emergency texts about expenses that were completely predictable." I looked at each of them. "If you invite me somewhere, invite me as your son and brother, not as your sponsor." I paused. And if anyone insults me, manipulates me, or tries to use children to make me feel guilty, I leave." Nathan gave a bitter laugh. "So you're cutting us off?" "Yes." The word felt strangely clean. Dad shook his head. "Money won't keep you warm, Caleb." I looked directly at him. "You're right, but neither did this family. They left without the $9,000. The months that followed weren't peaceful at first. Mom sent long messages about how deeply I had hurt her. Dad sent short messages about how disappointed he was. Nathan went back and forth between anger and desperation. Vanessa blocked and unblocked me so many times that eventually I stopped keeping track. She posted about toxic people, selfish people, and spiritually dark people. I let her. For the first time, I stopped defending myself to people who had already decided to misunderstand me. Instead, I started building a life that wasn't centered around rescuing everyone else. At first, the silence felt strange. I would come home after showings expecting some kind of crisis. There was nothing. I woke up early, tense and waiting for someone to need a transfer before breakfast. Nobody did, so I started filling the silence with things that were actually mine. I joined a Saturday hiking group. I took a cooking class and discovered I could make surprisingly good risotto but absolutely terrible bread. I also started therapy with Dr. Patel. She asked questions that sometimes left me staring at the ceiling long after the session ended. One day she asked me, "Who are you when nobody needs you?" I didn't know how to answer. For years, being needed had become my identity. Reliable Caleb, responsible Caleb, Caleb with money, Caleb who fixed things. Without that role, I felt almost empty. So I started answering the questions slowly. I was Caleb Hale. I was a realtor. I liked old houses, clean contracts, black coffee, mountain views, and mornings without dread. I liked being generous. I just didn't like being used. I was allowed to say no. I was allowed to be loved without constantly proving my usefulness. That last one took the longest to believe. In March, Nathan called me from a number I didn't recognize. I answered because I thought it might be a client. Caleb, his voice sounded different, smaller. "What do you need?" I asked automatically. "Nothing," he said quickly. "Not money." I almost hung up. Then he said, "Vanessa left." I closed my eyes. "She said she couldn't marry into financial instability," he continued bitterly. "She gave the ring back, but only because her dad made her. Then she told everyone you poisoned her against me." I stayed quiet. "I showed her the numbers," he said. "Yeah, she showed me the folder." I waited. He took a shaky breath. "I didn't know it was that much." "You knew it was a lot, not that much." "That's because you never had to count it." He didn't argue. That alone was new. "I got a job," he said. "Doing what?" "Warehouse night shift." "How's that going?" "I hate it." Despite myself, I smiled. "Most adult things are unpleasant before they're useful." He gave a weak laugh. Then his voice became serious. "I'm sorry." I stayed silent. "I know that doesn't fix anything," he added. "I used to tell myself you liked helping because it made you feel important. That was easier than admitting I was using you." It was probably the most honest thing he had ever said to me. "I appreciate you saying that," I replied carefully. "Lily keeps asking why you don't come around." My chest tightened. "What did you tell her?" "I told her I said something cruel and you needed some space." "Good. I don't expect money," he said. "I don't expect anything, maybe coffee sometime." I almost said no, then I thought about Lily, about Mason. About the brother Nathan might eventually become if everyone stopped paying him to remain exactly the same. "Coffee," I said. "No money talk, no mom and dad, no guilt." "Okay," he said. "Thank you." My parents took longer. Mom mailed me my childhood Christmas stocking with a small note attached. "You will always have a place at home." I stared at it for a long time. Then I put it in a drawer, not in the trash, not on the mantle, a drawer. That was where I was with my mother, not gone, not forgiven, just stored somewhere until I knew what I wanted to do. Dad left me a voicemail in April. "I don't know how to do this," he said. "Your mother says I should apologize and I don't like being told what to do." So that's probably part of why it took me this long. There was a long pause. "We were wrong about Christmas. I was wrong to let Vanessa decide whether you belonged. I was wrong to act like your help was something we were entitled to." Another pause. "I don't know if that fixes anything." It probably doesn't. But there it is. I listened to that voicemail 4 times, then I saved it, not because everything was suddenly healed, but because it was proof that finally someone had acknowledged the damage. By summer, my life looked different. I sold more houses than I had the year before. I started taking weekends off without feeling guilty. I stopped answering unknown numbers as if every call might be an emergency. Food tasted better when nobody brought an invoice to the dinner table. Nathan and I had coffee twice. The first time was awkward, the second was almost normal. He paid for his own drink. He asked about my work without somehow turning the conversation back toward himself. It was fragile. But it was better. In July, I hosted dinner at my condo. Aunt Lisa jokingly called it Christmas in July without the financial hostage situation. I invited cousins, friends, Nathan, Lily, and Mason. My parents weren't invited, not yet. Nathan arrived carrying grocery store flowers and a slightly crushed pie. I bought it myself, he said. I assumed, I wanted you to know. I know, Lily ran straight into my arms. Uncle Caleb, Dad says you ski now. I fall on snow now, I corrected. Very expensively, she giggled. And for the first time in a very long time, family didn't feel like something I had to survive. It felt like something I could actually enjoy. Later that evening, Nathan and I stood together on the balcony while the kids watched a movie inside. Mom asked if she could come. He said, I know. She cried when I told her you weren't ready. I'm not responsible for Mom's tears. He nodded. No, you're not. That was the moment I realized he had changed at least a little. A year earlier, he would have told me to call her, make peace, and be the bigger person. But this time, he simply accepted my boundary and let it stand. And that mattered. When Christmas came around again, I didn't go to Aspen. I stayed home. I bought a Christmas tree that was far too tall for my living room and decorated it badly. I invited Aunt Lisa, my cousins, Priya, 2 friends, Nathan, Lily, and Mason. Everyone brought something to eat. Nobody expected me to pay for everything. Nobody called me bad energy. Nobody treated my presence like some kind of financial arrangement. Then, at exactly 11:52 a.m. on Christmas morning, 1 year after Mom's call, my phone rang. Mom. I stared at the screen while the cinnamon rolls in the oven started burning. Finally, I answered. Merry Christmas, Caleb, she said softly. Merry Christmas, Mom. I'm not calling to ask you for anything. I leaned against the kitchen counter. Okay, I just wanted to say that I hope you have a good day. The silence that followed felt different this time. It didn't feel like a trap. It felt more like a bridge neither of us quite knew how to cross. Thank you, I said. I hope you have a good day too. Your father says hello. Tell him I said hello. There was another pause. Then she whispered, I miss you. I closed my eyes. I miss who I thought we were. She began crying quietly, but this time she didn't ask me to fix anything, and that mattered too. After we hung up, Nathan walked into the kitchen and sniffed the air. Are those cinnamon rolls or evidence of a crime? Careful, I said. I'm still rich enough to throw one at you. He grinned. Fair enough. A moment later, Lily came running in, asking if she could open one present before dinner. Mason followed behind her wearing a paper crown. He looked at the Christmas tree and announced, it's kind of crooked but brave. I looked at the tree. He was right. It was crooked, very crooked, but it was still standing. For years, I had believed that love meant being useful. I thought loyalty meant paying the bills, rescuing people, absorbing insults, and pretending not to notice when my place at the table came with conditions. But I finally understood something. Love that depends on your usefulness isn't really love. It's employment without a paycheck. The year my parents uninvited me from Christmas, they thought they were pushing me out of the family. What they actually did was destroy the illusion I had been living under. They showed me that my money had always been welcome, even when I was. They showed me that peace built on my silence was never really peace. And they showed me that being mature had always meant swallowing disrespect so everyone else could stay comfortable. So yes, I spent $37,000 in Aspen. Some people called it petty, maybe it was. But it was also the first time I had ever spent money without trying to buy love from people who had confused access to me with affection for me. That Christmas morning, when Mom called at 11:52 and told me the dinner had been canceled because nobody could afford to host it, she expected me to panic. She expected guilt. She expected the old Caleb, the fixer, the bank, the son who would always come running whenever they needed something. Instead, I looked out at the mountains and asked myself one simple question: why would that be my problem? And that was the moment I finally realized something. My life was mine.
If you were Caleb, would you have done the same thing, or do you think we went too far? Let me know your opinion in the comments. And if you enjoy the story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notification for more daily family dramas. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in next video.